Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So I learned to pronounce English like this in under a year. No foreign teachers, no fancy tools, and no burnout. In this video, I'm going to talk about exactly how I did it so you can start turning heads and let everybody around you raise their eyebrows. So let's get into this. The first thing to do is to know the essential tips about English pronunciation. By that, I don't mean any long courses on pronunciation symbols, and I'm not talking about their theories or technical terms. These things are made for research and teaching, and you're going to learn that after you master pronunciation, as a way to learn how it is after knowing what it is. The essentials I'm talking about here are actually tips like, while American pronunciation sometimes comes with a very strong R sound, and we don't speak with some kind of vibration in our mouth or something like that. I'm not going to cover all these tips in detail because this isn't the highlight of this video, but I'm going to make a video about that later. If you're interested in, you can consider subscribing to my channel. The next thing I did was to say no to blind reciting. Our traditional English teaching style forces us to remember a lot of things: chapters, passages, sentences, to name just a few. But this teaching method doesn't make any sense for pronunciation learning, particularly when the assignment is prepared by a teacher who speaks with very bad pronunciation. What I did instead was focus on just certain parts, just the small parts of a material, and try to repetitively speak and mimic that part. So I would say quantity is not the key, quality is. And this is how I did it. 10 years ago, I came across some videos like this.
It's tempting to think that this would be an easy math problem, but it turns out people have been studying this for 50 years. To explain, let me show you the variables. This section is called the coil, and this section is called the tail. The coil and the tail together make up the total height h. The mass flow rate of the material is q.
At that time, I had just started learning English, so my English proficiency was very terrible. You can guess I wasn't able to understand most of the content in these videos. But I had subtitles, so I could read them to know what the video was about. Sometimes I got videos like this. It was completely super difficult for me at that time. At first, I only understood a few words, but I just didn't stop there. I continued to watch these videos because my curiosity just drove me to understand more about the language and words and knowledge in this video because I don't know, knowing more things just feels so good. I watched them a lot. I played these videos whenever I could, as long as I didn't have other important things that required my full attention. When I could successfully mimic certain sections, I speak. I play the image in my mind as if I were the person in the video who is talking about something. It's tempting to think it's an easy math problem, but turns out people have been studying this for over 50 years. To explain, let me show you the variables. The section is coil, and the section is tail. The coil and tail come together to make up the total height h. I think it's exactly like what a kids would do. When we see children, they sometimes do mimicking work pretty well. Hence, children are more able to pick up a second language compared to adults. This is due to the plasticity of their brains, which adults don't have anymore. But it is also due to their nature, not afraid of speaking out loud in public, to indulge themselves in imaged setting in their mind, which adults can actually have and keep. Am I being too childish to learn a language like that? Well, the answer is yes, but being childish is not a bad thing. Being childish but not a child is one of the factors that make an interesting person. That means we have kept our original curiosity, our original motivation to understand and learn the world, and that displays our passion for new things we don't understand. So you can see that the essence of mastering English pronunciation is not that difficult or advanced. It is repetition plus mimicking, anytime and anywhere. The only thing that makes a difference is your willingness to do it, and your willingness comes from passages you like and you are familiar with. Next up, read out what you have in your hands. When I played a video game that's in English, I read the instructions and dialogue aloud. When I got a new textbook or book, I read through it. Believe it or not, I read the first chapter of this book, Where Power Made Easy, aloud, just like this. How to use this book for maximum benefit. Number one, this is not a reading book. don't read this book. Instead, work with it, write in it, talk aloud to it, talk back to it. Use your pen or pencil, your voice, not just your eyes and mind. Learning, real learning, goes on only through active participation. When a new word occurs in the chapter, say it aloud. When you do the matching exercises, use a pen or pencil, write your responses. Just like this. During your continuous reading out loud, your ability to do phonetics is trained. You're going to see if you have mastered the essential skills of pronunciation, as I mentioned before. You are creating the connection between your brain, the sound of the word, and the image of the word. These three things crossing over and connecting with one another. And there's no way you will forget the language anyway. Of course, it is okay to read out loud with some mistakes if you haven't learned a certain word, but you can always get right the words you have picked up from like multiple exposure to videos and materials before, because these things have been printed in your mind. So next time you see something in English, read it aloud the way you heard in a video. Have you had enough of your teacher's bad pronunciation at school? Well, the final takeaway is to forget your teachers at school, especially if you find your English teacher too lame to teach you good English pronunciation. I think this happens to most English learners because those of us from small towns don't have good English teachers with solid English pronunciation. Even though I was in one of the best middle schools in the very small town, in China, the English education that most people receive is mainly for fulfilling English tests assigned by the English education system, but not for the sake of using the language itself. There's nothing wrong with the teaching style here. It is just how the game is set up. But this is just ineffective when it comes to pronunciation and the actual use of of English. So I didn't participate seriously in the pronunciation training of my teacher. I didn't really spend much effort and time on things like morning reading sessions. These are the things that I never took seriously. But you might say, what about the text scores? Here's the good news. If you decide to spend time on English learning and pronunciation, you're going to get good text scores on those text papers, even though you don't spend a lot of time in the classroom. I would say my pronunciation learning happens for the most part outside the classroom, away from a teacher in front of a huge groups of students. You can actually do it on your own or with the help of a private tutor who has like solid pronunciation. So these are the four habits that I kept to help me become good at English pronunciation. And let me do a quick recap. First, learn the essential tips and essential basics of English pronunciation. 2, no more reciting. Focus on mimic instead. Number 3, read out loud. Read everything out loud. And number 4, forget your school teachers. But before I wrap up this video, I'd like to add a disclaimer here. This video is about mastering English pronunciation. It is not about perfect English speaking because English speaking is not just about pronunciation. Want tips on other parts related to like fluency and articulation? I'm going to cover them in later videos. Yeah, that's all for the sharing in this video. I'm Shawn English here. Remember, happy learning